I suppose for most people, the process of dramaturgy, as in this particular case, taking an existing work, working with the playwrights to take it in the direction that you, as the playwright, want to take it, that must be a fairly mysterious process. Between the two of you, is it possible to somehow give people a little bit of a taste of how that actually works on a practical day-to-day basis? Like, how do you do it? How do you dramaturge?
Well, who should start?
Why don't you start?
I think above all, whether you're working on a new play or revisiting a play, it's trying to in your work with a writer, and there is a missing person from this process here. Guillermo Verdecchia, the director, was very much a part of this process. But it's always about finding Sunil's impulses for writing the play, and then to help clarify the execution of those impulses. So for me, it's, I would always begin by asking him questions. What was the genesis of this play? What is your intention here? And also understanding that it is not, but plays come out of different parts of writers' minds. Some of it they know, some of it they don't know. And good work always has the cerebrated and the unconscious part of it. And so part of what you have to try to do is not to invade the delicacy of that balance. So I may begin by asking Sunil questions, finding out, of course, what he would like to do in the rewrites, and then, sharing, perhaps some thoughts about where I think there's perhaps there's one relationship in the play that wasn't clear to me, and talking to him about that relationship and trying to draw out of him, what he was trying to accomplish in that.
Is that a painful process?
In theory, it could be, but it wasn't in this case. Robert used the phrase, "what was clear to me," and I think that's what I was seeking and received through this partnership, which was somebody else with good eyes telling me what they saw. Right. And I need, as I mentioned before, I used the word perspective, and that is what I gained with this play over the year, but not just through my eyes.
It's interesting to hear you use that, because I do think the best thing that a dramaturge or a director can do in working on the script is to be a good audience and let the writer know what is coming across and what is not, because I think one of the most difficult areas to balance in writing a play is respecting that unconscious impulse in the brain, so that you're not over-explaining things. So it's really clarifying the story, and then maybe perhaps talking about storytelling, and at one point, because Sunil has worked on several drafts of the play in the course of this past year, and at one point part of the storytelling became not just what we would normally think of as story, but the structure of the play. And we had a discussion about the structure of Act 2, for example, and how if some of the scenes were rearranged, that the emotional line in the act could be more compelling.
So we're going to see a very different version of the play?
Yes, I think it's a new play.
Yeah.
I mean, I have the same pride right now with this script as if I had written a new play. Wow. And I'm sorry to say this again, but I think it bears repeating, which is, I don't know of any other place or I've never heard another playwright speak of an experience where they've had a year to work solely with a dramaturge on a project. And I've had a few readings to test drive the stuff along the way, and it's been wonderful.
And readings are always essential because when you hear it, you have to really hear a play. It's hard to know when you read it on the page. You know, playwrights think in 3 dimensions, and so when you hear a play, you get so much more information than you can from reading it. And of course, good actors will have questions as well.
And that brings me to a question that someone has sent in. Will you be bringing back public readings of new and developing plays? I mean, we did used to do this. We would make them open to the public. Any plans for that?
It's certainly possible in the future, but, and I will speak for myself and then ask Sunil, this process is so delicate. It's always good to have an audience, but I've sat through feedback sessions with an audience after a reading that have been very destructive. So my instinct as a dramaturg is to protect the privacy of the writer, so that there's no public pressure, you know, and at a too early a stage. And for example, since I've also run a program in the United States that I invited Sunil to, the Sundance Theater Labs, there the first thing I did in my tenure there was to take away public readings of the work, because what I would see is suddenly the actors see a producer they want to impress out there, and they are now performing at a time when actually it doesn't serve the writer. They're serving themselves. You know, actors are extraordinarily generous, so no one does this consciously, but the pressure of having a public audience too early is not helpful. Do you disagree with that?
No, I was going to say, again, to speak about seeing and looking, if it's too early on, if you have a public reading too early on, where you yourself don't know really what it is before you, you may be pointed in a direction, people may be telling you where to look, whereas you're not going there naturally yet.